Welcome to The Longer Game. If you're listening to a show about retail being reimagined. If you'd like to connect with The Longer Game, look for The Longer Game at thelongergame.com and on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at The Longer Game. We're here to talk about retail, why it's changing, how it's changing, and what you can expect in the future. We're not trying to take ourselves too seriously, but we do want to know what that retail landscape is going to look like. I hope you enjoy your time listening to this podcast. We try to keep it as quick as possible because we don't want to waste your time, but we want to keep you informed. Thanks for tuning in. Now, here's the show. Good morning, evening, afternoon. I don't think anybody's in the afterlife listening to this, but welcome to The Longer Game, the show that we talk about retail. We talk about what retail looks like. It's changing, and there are a lot of important things to go through. And my guest today has a very specific role when it comes to retail, and especially with e-commerce. Her name is Jana Krekic, and I think I said that right. Although she did tell me to just go by Jana, like Cher or Oprah. So Jana, she is the owner and CEO of YLT Translations. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today. And you totally nailed my last name. So
Good.
good job.
Yes. 1 point for me, 0
Yeah.
for you. Tell tell us more about what you do with YLT Translations, because it really is something that I talk about a lot is branding. And in branding, you have to know who your end consumer is, who your target audience is, in order for you to really succeed as a brand and to last long term. So talk about what you do, and I think we can find out more about branding from that perspective.
Right. So we help sellers expand to international marketplaces. We're mostly focused on Amazon, but like we've been I personally have been in e-commerce for the last 10 years. So like I've seen everything when it comes to good branding, bad branding, not translating well what you do, not conveying the right message to your audience. And in light of, recent events like COVID and everything, like people have been pivoting to international marketplaces and also in search of different channels like Walmart, Rakuten, like other marketplaces other than
Mhm.
Amazon, selling on and off Amazon, of course. But we've seen very big increase in like very big brands going to international marketplaces, something that did not want to do before, but they kind of saw the big potential, and that they're basically struggling on the U.S. marketplace with like tons of competitors. And when you go to Germany, for instance, you will see
Yeah.
that it's not that situation. So you could be, leaving a lot of money on that table, because you're not working on your expansion. And I mean, we've like been working with brands from being sold in Sephora, CVS, like big
Oh,
furniture
wow. Okay.
companies. Yeah, like insanely big brands that they had no experience selling on Amazon or any like e-commerce experience. They're just like, we want to do it this year. So that we've seen like a big increase in that, like right after COVID, let's say like April last year. That's like when things really started like
Okay.
kicking in. And a lot of them are very big brands, and they kind of find a very big challenge into conveying the right message to the audience, let's say in Europe or Japan, because it's a completely different type of customer, and you don't know how to talk to them because the salesly fluffy style from the States doesn't work so well, let's say
Yeah.
in Germany. It's like quite the opposite. So you will not be doing
Works
the right
well for the
thing.
kitchen, the bathroom, the
Yeah.
stairs. That kind of stuff doesn't work in Germany. It's factual, is 20 inches by 15, has 3 settings. Like, it has to be very straightforward, almost more mechanical, right?
Yes, very mechanical, very like, go straight to business. Don't tell me that your product is like the best ever and that you will be amazed
Right.
by these amazing features and stuff like that. Like don't push clients into buying the product. They'll just gonna, it's gonna, scare them away and
It's a
they're just gonna go
turnoff.
to the yeah, it's completely like it's like a very, very big turn off. And there are like so many like words that you should avoid, like when you're selling like bath products, they're just like pamper yourself and like do this lush products. And Germans are like, yeah, but how does that help me? Like, will that, like,
I
help
don't
me with
I
my
don't
super
feel
dry
luscious.
skin? Yeah. No, I
Yep.
don't feel it. I wanna
Will
know,
moisturize skin.
yes, will this moisturize my super dry skin? Yes or no? So basically, they just
So,
wanna
like,
see,
that's
like,
a
the
great
benefits.
example. How would you if someone in the States said, like, this soap, luscious body feel, smooth texture, enjoying yourself, what would that line of copy look like in Germany on the
I would
Amazon
say it will be
Marketplace?
something similar to, like, it will prevent the dryness of your skin, or it doesn't leave stains on your, I don't know if it's like a body lotion or something like that. It doesn't leave, like, stains on
Mhm.
your wardrobe, or it's like it makes, like, you can say, like, the skin is, like, smoother, but you just have to skip all of these, like, adjectives that are, like, explaining the how well you're gonna feel yourself.
Okay.
Because Germans are like, well, we're gonna decide how we're gonna feel, and you're gonna tell me what are the
Ah,
benefits of your
yes.
products, Like, so don't tell me how I feel. They don't
That's
like that.
really
It's a
interesting.
yeah, it's a different approach, and it's a different language. And there's, like, a really cool example of this. There was this glass espresso cup that we did. Originally, the listing was in the US. So, like, one of the bullets said, like, it was like small glass espresso. It was really cool looking little glass,
Mhm.
and it
It's
said,
like a
like,
double-walled glass?
like a double wall glass, exactly.
Okay.
So, like, the first bullet said, like, cool, cooler, coolest. That's, like, the first sentence in the first bullet, and we translate that as thermo isolated glass. This is it. It's like, that's a cool design, and
That's
it does what
awesome,
it
yeah.
does. Or the third bullet was like,
Cool, cool,
it
coolest.
said, just like your your granny used to do when well, she sat in front of her fireplace and she didn't
Yeah.
want to burn her fingers, blah blah blah. So, like, in that bullet, we said something like, the structure of the glass would not burn your fingers, basically, or like, you're gonna enjoy your
That's
cup
like
of
night and
coffee.
day.
Yes, like, literally, like, not just don't go to my childhood memories with my grandma and, like,
I'll go
and
there when I
evoke
wanna go
that.
there.
Yeah, it's just gonna tell me that it's not gonna be, because there's no handle, there's just a small glass, so just tell me that I'm not gonna burn my fingers while I enjoy my glass of espresso, So those are, like, really,
Mhm.
like, completely different examples of the same product that people would not understand if you kept talking about, like, those, like, metaphors and, like, emotionally
Mhm.
trying to involve with the customers. Like, Germans don't like that. So that's something
Well, so
that's
many people
super
talk
expressive.
about marketing. Well, so I was just gonna say, people talk about marketing nowadays, and they talk about how you want to evoke an emotion in what people are doing, but that's very specific to certain countries. I'd say probably US, Canada, UK, some of the more Western countries. Not, I mean, Germany still is kind of Westernized. It's just,
It
different
is, but,
feel.
like, you really have to be careful with it. Like, of course, if you're selling, like, baby products or some, like, plushy toys for toddlers, of course you're gonna have, like, language that's not gonna be so super, super strict, but you really
Yeah,
have
don't say
to.
baby toy.
Yeah, like, you really have to pay attention to what you're
Toy for
doing.
baby.
Toy for baby, toy for
Yeah.
toddlers, stuff like that. And also, like, when talking about, like, now it's a very interesting topic about the gender neutral, like, she, her, him, her, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
genders and terms. Like, for instance, like, in the Netherlands, when you sell products, you should not explain that they are, let's say, toys for boys or toys for girls,
Or
because
toys for
people
girls.
over
Oh,
there
okay.
don't like it. Those are, like, toys for toddlers or for kids,
Ah,
or, like, it's kind of more
okay.
general. So they're very, very radical when it comes. They're like California, so they're, like, very
Yeah, yeah,
radical
yeah.
when it comes to that. So, like,
Be very gender neutral, let people just almost like the Germans and
yeah.
like, "I'll decide my identity, I just want you to tell me what age group it's for."
Yes, exactly. So, like, when it comes to your brand, if you're selling, like, Barbie dolls and, like, I don't know, pink slippers or something, you wanna leave that as, you know, gender neutral type of thing. Like, that's what happens in the
Okay.
Netherlands. And, like, if you look for, like, keywords in the Netherlands, like, keywords that describe a product as, I'm talking about, like, general, like, Google Ads or any other, like, search engine. It's
Sure.
like the search volume for, like, toys for girls is like way lower than like
Okay.
toys for kids or toddlers or preschool kids or kindergarten toys and stuff like that. So you're gonna
Okay.
have to go like a
You're
little
like
bit
on the
like
cutting
around
edge of
that.
societal issues, it sounds like.
Yeah,
You're right
well,
there with because you have to be.
yes, I mean, you're talking to your consumer, and when the seller comes to you and they're like, "Just do this," they're just like, do the translation," and I'm like, "Yeah, Bob, there's so many things you have to, take into consideration. Like this is pure localization, and if you have a website, if you have a Shopify store, if you sell on Amazon, like you have to know this." Because I personally, like, I would not buy like this product with this shady description in my language. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
would you? There's like,
Yeah, no, I
no,
wouldn't.
you know.
Product
So
product wor well, to that point, there are a lot of sellers that we know that there's a lot of sellers that are from China because of, on the Amazon
yeah,
US marketplace, because that's where a lot of manufacturing is done, so it makes sense that they would wanna cut out the middleman and sell directly to people. However, especially among, I would say, sellers, you start to notice, and I think consumers too, you start to notice copy that the English isn't quite correct, and someone says product will get home better, and they're trying to say this product will help you to get home better and faster. It's a GPS. Let's say it's a GPS system. A
yeah,
product will home better, more good times. Like it sounds. The best way I know how to say it is, without trying to be offensive, is it sounds Chinesey. It sounds like someone's trying
yeah. It's
to
like
speak
Chinglish.
English,
Yeah, I know it's
but it's
not
not their local.
politically correct.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
Spanglish.
yeah, it's Chinglish. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. As
but there's so many
Yeah,
bad
Chinglish. Okay,
examples.
yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
really is what it is.
It is what it is. It's like a mix of Chinese, like, type of sentence just translated very poorly to English. And I have, like, tons of, like, examples when people, like, really do a bad job with that. Like, I remember there was an, Italian marketplace, it was like in Amazon in Italy, and they were marketing for a bikini for a plus size women. But
Okay.
unfortunately, like Italian translation, what the word that they use for plus size was grosso, which means big or fat. So they were basically
Okay.
advertising for like a bikini for fat women. And they had like tons of
Not the
like,
best way to sell the
no, no, no,
bikini.
no, not very flattering, not a euphemism you want to use. So basically, their reviews
Hey,
were
you
so
fat
bad.
ass. Here
Yes,
is your bikini.
here's your
Yeah, not gonna
bikini.
fly very well.
Yeah, size of a tent, because that's what you can wear, basically.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Size of a
yeah,
10. Hey, we want to be considerate, but it's the size of a tent, so it'll definitely cover your whole entire rear end. I think
yeah,
that honestly, marketing is about knowing your audience, and for a lot of US sellers out there, it's important to know that while your product target audience here in the US might be someone that's more artistic. Let's say you sell, colored pencils and sets like that. You might be saying, hey, you're going to get beautiful, lush designs. You're going to have vibrant, bright colors. You're trying to evoke that emotion in people. But let's say you go to Germany, you're going to say, brush width is 3 millimeters, and you have 7 different colors, and you're going to have to be very, very technical. It doesn't mean that your target audience has necessarily changed. It just means, especially when this is all about localization. When you go and talk to a different country or a different group of people, you have to speak their language, literally, and you can't say things that might work in one place. Just like, how I talk to my dad might be a lot different than how I talk to my daughter.
yeah,
um
that's a good example.
so
Yeah,
you have, and they both love me. I believe they both love me. I'll have to call both. Well, my daughter's only 8; she's in school, so I'm just gonna say she does. I'll call and check with my dad later, just to make sure that he does, so that I'm accurate on air. But it's a different audience. You have to make sure that you're speaking to that specific audience and not just going based on what you think. There's a great book called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've heard of that, Yana.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
by
I know about
Don.
it.
You have, okay.
Mhm.
By Don Miguel Ruiz. I would highly recommend it to anyone out there that's listening. And the reason being, it talks about this similar concept, in that We make a lot of agreements with ourselves, like this is a tumbler, this is a microphone, this is a shirt, and we've all just kind of agreed upon those things. But those things are what they are. It doesn't matter what we call them. I could call this a farfignugan, and it would still be a thing that covers my body. Um, so we make all these agreements with ourselves, and over time, we start to make these agreements like people tell you, "Hey, Michael, you suck. You're not good at this," and I start believing that, and in turn says, "Hey, start making different agreements with yourself." And there are four that you can live your life by. One is always do your best, so put your best foot
Yeah.
forward. Number two is don't make assumptions. Number three is don't take anything personally, and number four is be impeccable. Oh, I'm sorry. Always do your best is four. Number one is be impeccable with your word.
Be
But the
impeccable with
don't
your
make
word. Yes.
be impeccable with your words. So that localization speaks to those first two agreements. Be impeccable with your word and don't make assumptions. If you are using words that are hurting people, like bikini the size of a 10, I don't think I'll ever get over that. It's the best line I've heard on my podcast forever. That we're just going to start advertising as the longer game, a bikini the size of a 10. We'll see what kind of reactions we get.
Well, I think it's definitely, it will grab attention and you will, people will be like, what is this about? Sounds interesting. Something's happened to me,
Bikinis for 10. Yeah, I feel like the size of a tent after Thanksgiving. So if I want a bikini
Oh,
for right after Thanksgiving, I'm gonna go here.
yeah, right.
Sounds pretty spot on.
Right. I
So
I
when we're
agree.
talking about localization, we're also talking about, how people perceive different products. So uh and also it's really important to know how, especially because English is such a global language. Really, more people speak Mandarin or Chinese than they do English, but English is such a global business language because, there's lots of commerce that comes from the US. When you go and look at different cultures, you have to understand how they speak or utilize words like English. And so, for instance, I studied Japanese for 8 years. I can't speak it fluently because I never have anyone to talk about it with. I got a bunch of books that I could go, reread through. But there's a whole alphabet in Japanese that is
Yeah.
dedicated to American words. So like
Yes.
coffee is kohi. It
And
sounds
and
very, very
beer
similar.
beer is biru.
Biru. Biru.
Yeah,
Yeah,
biru.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's such a fascination and affinity for American culture that there's an alphabet, and it's funny. There's three alphabets in Japanese. There's these two more simple ones, and then there's the more complicated one, which is kanji, which they got
Kanji.
from Chinese or Mandarin. It's the same, like very complicated looking characters, but they took this whole alphabet, this original hiragana alphabet, is what it is, and they use all the same sounds, so like a, I, U, E, O, mami, mume, mo, and they created different symbols, somewhat similar, but different symbols in a different alphabet, and they call it katakana. If I haven't lost you by now, thank you for continuing on. But it's all for American words. That's exactly it. Or like you can say toilet, you can say oterai, or you could say toire. Toire is like toilet. So there's so many different, depending upon the country where you're going, you also have to know maybe how they might interpret certain things, and that makes a big difference. What talk about some of the translations that you do in Asian countries? How do those differ from maybe like something in Europe versus
Yeah.
going into the US?
So exactly what you just mentioned. So we do Japanese and we also do Korean, but like mostly we do Japanese from all the Asian languages. And Japanese is really interesting because, as you said, like it has the English version of Japanese, then you have the Japanese, and you have the kanji, which is like a third thing. So basically, when you have your product or anything like online in like let's say Shopify or any of the web stores and stuff like that, you need to have like optimized descriptions of the product. But it's important to, like, when it comes to keywords for these products, you have to have the keywords that are in Japanese English and then Japanese
Mhm.
Japanese. So you have to include both in those translations and stuff like that, and people don't do that, and that's really really bad. And when it comes to
So you're
Japan, it's
putting
such
them
a
back to back. How do you do something like that? Like with toilet, toire versus oterai.
Yeah.
How do you put those two words together? Is it like a
You
slash, or what do you do?
No, 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 you wouldn't put that like, maybe like, if it's a title of the product, then you could put 2 of them, like, right next to each other. Maybe, like, you put it with
Okay.
a hyphen a little
You
bit
just meant
or yeah, with
throughout the
this
copy, you
yes,
want to
like
use
that,
both.
right. But, like,
Okay.
if you wanna have it, like, inside of the copy, of course, you're not gonna put, like, this and that. It's gonna be, like, maybe, like, 1 paragraph you use, like, 1 word, and then the second
Okay.
paragraph you use the same word, but in English, Japanese, for instance. So but you're just gonna have to kinda mix and match. I mean, I'm not a my husband also studied Japanese, and he hasn't used it
Oh, okay.
ever, but he does a lot of
Yeah,
that,
you
but
know a
it's
lot about
very
Japanese. I mean, I know you
yeah,
know a lot about languages in general.
yeah.
How many
I'm a
languages are you
translator.
fluent in?
I speak 5 languages, and I have background in languages myself. So I
Okay.
actually went to school, got my bachelor's and master's in 4 languages and literature, and
You
then after that, I went to e-commerce, basically.
you have such a clutch position because there are more, I'm seeing more people start to do translation, but translation with localization is huge, and people will pay money for that, and they should, because you are crafting their business to make sense in a country that they're not familiar with. But I was going to say, you do seem to know a lot about Japanese, so that's interesting that your husband studied Japanese as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really such a fascinating culture and so different than anything else. And let's say
Yeah.
like one of the products that we've seen that works, like basically all of the best sellers on other marketplaces, like in the US and Europe, they rarely work in Japan. In Japan, you barely
Okay.
don't have any competitors. They also have Rakuten, they have Amazon,
I
like
was going to say
PPC click.
Rakuten is very, very big over there.
Yes, very big. But like the PPC and the marketing and everything gonna pay for it, it's literally so cheap. It's ridiculous because you don't have a
Now
lot of
talk about advertising,
competitors.
because in Amazon Japan, so I started out my whole e-commerce career, I started selling back in 2010, and when I launched on Amazon Japan, just a couple products when I was over there, but I never really got into advertising on that side because I was more focused on the US side. How does that work? How does advertising work in a country like Japan, where there's kanji, where there's different alphabets? How does that, how do you yeah, I'm just like curious, how does that even work over
Right.
there?
Well, it's I mean, first of all, what is really tricky is that there are no tools for these keywords that you're gonna, use in your campaigns or anywhere else. It has to all be
Yeah.
like done manually, basically, or you're just gonna look what the others are using and stuff like that. And so what I know
Mhm.
that one PPC agency that we work with, what they do is like we give them like a list of keywords. Let's say the toilet, we write like a couple of different variations of the toilet, like English and the Japanese version and stuff like that. So they're
Okay.
just gonna put all of that. If that's like something, if they're selling, I don't know, uh, like a special version of toilet paper with the Harajuku
Okay.
like girls on it, then you're gonna
Oh,
put like
okay.
Harajuku girls like in like 3 different types of keywords, but they're gonna all mean the same thing. So I would go for
You'll
like
bid on each term to see which one
each
works,
yes,
basically.
and also because it's not expensive as it is elsewhere. You're not
Mhm.
gonna, I mean, depending on like, let's say I think Harajuku is expensive because it's very popular over there, but I would say that other
Sure.
products would not have so expensive clicks. Like for instance, like one of these products that we
Yeah.
did was it was some sort of like it's like used for martial arts and it's a shield that
Okay.
you put down there, you put on your thing, and it's like a shield,
Put
and
on your
it's
thing. I like that.
yes,
This
put
is
on
the
your thing.
best episode so far, by the way. Tents, tents for your butts, things for your thing. This is great.
So you put it you put it on your thing, and then it comes in, like, all these, like, crazy colors, like, cartoon-inspired themes and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
yes, it looks really crazy, and it went so well on the Japanese marketplace because that's a product for Japan. It's not for Italy, but it is for
Right.
Japan, right? So I remember
How many
that
people are seeing this, like, cup that you're putting on the, is it, or is it just knowing, "Oh, I have a kitty cat on my cup. That makes me feel better about performing in martial arts."
I don't know,
I
really,
guess
like,
people wear crazy underwear in the States or anywhere else, so it doesn't really matter.
I know, but this is like something what you just like, like it's gonna protect you, like we're doing your jujitsu or like whatever martial arts
Yeah.
that they do like in Japan, and it comes like a full like a almost like a bodysuit that comes with that. You can like buy that. It's kind of it's a bundle, so you're gonna buy that with that, and you can
Okay.
buy a sword. But it's all like you would dress up for like Halloween, but people absolutely loved it over there. Like some things
Awesome.
that are super weird, they're only gonna work there. And that's why I'm saying, like, know your best sellers, but like, don't think that your bestseller from the US is necessarily going to be bestseller in Japan because of like such a specific culture, they have. And, like in Japan, I'm sure you know this, like, it's very rude to look somebody in the eye. It's just like,
Hmm.
that's like the rudest thing you can do to a person and stuff like that. So they're kind of really different. And you have to do a little bit of research. And what I always do, like, if you're maybe wondering if your brand or like your products are going to be a good fit, like you don't have to pay tons of money because from what I know, there are no tools that are going to give you like the like the what just came out from Amazon, the growth explorer, like the tool that's going to
Okay.
tell you if it's going to be a good fit or not. You don't have that for Japan. But what you can do is like you can go
Right.
to like expat groups like on Facebook and just gonna ask Japanese
Oh,
people that are
okay.
over there. I'd be like, hey, so like, what do you think about my product? Like, would you buy this? Like, why don't you think it's good? Because a lot of times, like, what I do is like people come to us, and then for some products, like we know if they're gonna work, is gonna be like a hit or not. But some of the products are like we've never had. They're like, is this gonna work in Germany? And we're like, well, I don't know, but let me ask my team of translators. So I asked like 12 of them, and I'm like, what do you think about this product? And the product was Mr. and Mrs. T-shirt. It says like
Oh,
Mr. and then smiley face and then Mrs. I don't know, smiley with a crown or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And the product did not go well in Germany, like at all. And she was like, well, why? Like I optimized everything. I don't understand why this doesn't work. And all of my translators like, no, like don't
This
we
would
would
not
never
work.
buy this.
Yeah.
This would not work in Germany, like not
It's
at
too
all,
like pitchy for Germany,
Yeah,
whereas
it's
I feel
like,
like in the
yeah,
US people
it
would
will,
maybe go for
yes.
that.
Yeah, probably will, right? But, like, in
Germans
Germany,
don't
it's
like
like,
puns
no.
maybe or jokes or anything that's funny.
Yeah, I think they like I mean, I'm sure they have, like, some, like, pun intended products, but, like, in their
Okay.
own version or
Yeah,
in,
it's
like,
very
the
different than
sense
what
of
we would
that
expect.
they would enjoy it or they would have fun with it. And talking of, products, there was, like, a game that we did. It was, like, a very like, it was super, super, super insanely successful. They had, like, over 20,000 reviews on Amazon, and it's like a
Wow.
board game, and but it involved the name of the biggest Nazi leader known to humankind, and it
Oh
was like a
gosh.
board game that would like people. It's like finding out like secret clues and stuff like that. Like Cluedo or something like that, but just with
Sure.
a in name of the game. So they wanted to go to the German marketplace, and my team was just like, "Oh my god!" It's like this is so not
Yeah,
okay,
they were in shock.
and yeah, they were completely in shock. And then, but the client was like, "No, we've got like a lots of requests for it, like from Germany. Let's do it. Let's try. Let's do this."
Okay.
And all of my translators are just gonna get like side notes, like we don't think this is, but like we're gonna do it. I mean, if you're really interested in that.
We're gonna
So
do it,
I'm
yeah,
really
because you asked us
curious.
to and you're paying us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes like we would not do a product. Like for instance, we would not do like last year. It was like tons of like face masks. Like we would not do that. We would not do translation for the face masks. Also because it's super difficult and like it's just doomed to just fail. At that point when people were like, "Oh, it's
Well,
such a good
there was
idea.
so
It's
much
pandemic."
regulation around those
Yeah, and like
products.
face
Yeah,
mask
yeah.
covering. It's okay now. Tomorrow you'll be banned for that. And I don't remember. There were
I
some
think
other
that's
products that we
wise
said
of you,
no
by the
to.
way, to, like, preface stuff and say,
Yeah,
"Hey, we're not gonna do this because you're gonna waste money on it."
exactly. And we were like, no, I mean, what if, yeah, you'll pay me and then what? I'm not gonna get rich off like $300 you're gonna give me for this product. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes we do say no when we just really think it's not appropriate, or if it's like, no, like my translators don't feel comfortable in translating this, or stuff like that. It's rare, but sometimes when all the translators are just like, no, this is not what we want to do, and it's not gonna do well in this marketplace, we're like, well, you might want to skip this marketplace, because I'd rather like be
Okay.
transparent and tell people if it's gonna work or not, than just for
Yeah.
them to take their money and then they don't see any results. Like that's the worst thing it could happen.
Mhm.
So
Well, and
yeah,
that's honestly that's bad for your brand. That's bad for YLT
yeah,
Translations.
absolutely.
One of the things that
Yeah,
I think about for my agency Cartology is our resume is the work that we're doing for people. And so if we're not doing work where people want to refer us to other people because we did great work or
yes,
they're willing to talk about that, then that does us no good. So I'd rather say no, I don't think we're going to be a good fit for you because you're very focused on this and that's not what our focus is. I'm okay with that. I'd rather grow more sustainably and with the right people, even if that means, we don't hit, you know, triple
yeah,
digit growth or whatever the case might be every single year. I want to build a solid base of people. So I think you're wise to do that. I was also going to mention that, you talk about different cultures. So where you send your products or how you approach people. It's not just the language, but it's what you're doing and how you approach people. Like that, that game that was in the U.S. that had the most well-known Nazi leader, and they wanted to put it into Germany. You have to think about where the products are and what the culture is like. One of the greatest examples I have of that is Amazon going into China several years ago, and eventually they ended up pulling out. And the reason was it's not that they didn't have enough money or that they didn't have the technology, the capability, but places like Tmall and Taobao that
mhm,
are native to China and know and understand the culture, the cuteness factor, all the how to approach things. All that stuff makes a big difference, and that's why I believe Amazon ended up pulling out of China because they just didn't know how to speak
yeah,
to that marketplace
no,
as
no, no,
effectively
no.
as the other people.
Oh, I have a really good story when it comes to Chinese e-commerce. So, a while ago, Dolce & Gabbana, like the famous, the famous
Yeah,
designers from Italy, so
I'm
they
wearing
launched.
Dolce and Gabbana underwear.
Oh, see, so
I'm just kidding.
you're a fan. So,
I'm a fan.
so they launched like this
I got you off
campaign.
track.
No, they launched this campaign. I will never be left on track. So they launched this campaign,
Okay.
and there was like a new, like I don't know, like a spring, summer, whatever. And so in that video, there was a girl. She was wearing Dolce Gabbana, and she was Asian, and she was eating pizza, like slice of pizza, with her chopsticks. And they launched this like worldwide,
Oh,
and
wow.
Chinese got so freaking upset that they banned whole Dolce & Gabbana merchandise in China that year. They're like, "No." And
Whoa.
and they demanded an apology, but then Dolce & Gabbana, being assholes as they always are, they're like, "We're not gonna apologize." And they're like, you know.
We're Dolce& and
So
Gabbana. Yeah.
yeah, we're Dolce& and Gabbana, like, we don't freaking care. So they got so upset and they got, like, really, because they're, like, very, very sensitive about their culture. I mean, I get the idea, like, they
Sure.
wanted to kinda combine, like, the Italy with China, chopsticks on
Mhm.
pizza, stuff like that, but it was
Yeah.
so bad,
Maybe
and I mean,
well-intended, but bad
yes,
execution.
but I mean, that marketing, the head of marketing should definitely be fired. Because I mean, like, I think that even if they, like, if they spread the idea of, like, what they wanna do, I'm sure people would have, like, shut that down, be like, "No, no, no."
Well,
Like,
like, to
"No, you
your
didn't."
point, you ask your translators, even though you're the head of the
Yeah,
company, you ask
yeah.
your translators, "What do you think about this?" And they understand local or native things. Are most of your translators in the countries that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that they're
Yes.
translating the language to?
Yes,
Okay,
most of them
so
are.
they know and
Yeah.
understand culture. You're relying upon that. I would imagine that Dolce& and Gabbana has enough money to say, "Hey, let's pull some Chinese people and see if they like these chopsticks on a pizza." But
Yes,
maybe they just
exactly.
let their pride get in the way.
No, no, no. And also, interesting story about, like, localization, how very big brands fail there is Starbucks. You don't have Starbucks in Australia.
Mm.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did not
So,
know that.
yeah, so they just kind of went to Australia and they were like, "We just all open like 5,000, like Starbucks over here.
Yeah.
Like everybody loves
Well,
Starbucks.
that
Like
was their
why,
whole US strategy
everyone."
too.
Yeah, and they just gonna open
Mhm.
everything, and, like, what they did not even, like, they just kinda did not have any business plan, obviously, did not think through what they were doing. Their Australian coffee culture is more closer to Italian coffee culture with, like, macchiatos, espressos,
Uh,
not the, pour overs
and
and like,
Starbucks doesn't do well in Italy. They have a very
oh
few
yeah, I
stores
can
in Italy.
imagine.
It's
I don't
because
know
the
why they don't
Italians
bag
are
their, yeah, I
bags
don't
and
know
just
why
get
they
the hell
don't
out.
just bag their bags. Just like,
Yeah. No, I mean that's
arrivederci.
very, very true. Arrivederci. So I don't know if they're big in France either, but I know that getting that Starbucks getting into the Asian market was something that was tentative as well. And it seems like fast food places do really well in Asian market because it represents to them American culture, and they're getting, they love
Right.
a lot of American culture stuff. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I think it's smart.
you know who's really big in Japan? Costco.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, and you
Are you
know
doing
why?
translations for their site for
No,
people?
we're not. No, we're not
Okay,
doing
okay,
Costco. We're doing Rakuten and Amazon, but, when it
okay.
comes to Costco, like, so what was very interesting, so, like, Japanese people, they like, locally, produced products, like organic food
Mhm.
and stuff like that. They like to go on a scavenger hunt for, like, discounts and stuff like that. But what they've
Okay,
never experienced before with Costco, because Walmart tried to go to Japan, and they couldn't offer anything that Japanese people were interested in, no
okay.
locally produced source food or discounts are everywhere. They're just like, nah, like I'm not gonna buy here. But Costco was like so amazing because they offer buying things in bulk, and they've never seen like anything like buying in bulk. And they're like, this is such an
Okay.
amazing shopping experience, and they're offering something which is like, like 15 bottles of champagne or like 30 bags of like TP and stuff like that. And they're just like, oh my God, just like
I wanna
being
buy
all
all the bulk
crazy.
stuff.
Everything. They're like being obsessed by Costco, and Costco till this day is doing amazingly well in Japan because they offer them a unique shopping experience they have never seen before.
People, it is so important to know your audience and to make sure that you're speaking to them. And also to Yana's point, what works well in the US may not work. It could work well in another country, but it's not guaranteed to work in another country. So do some research and hire someone like YLT Translations to help you translate. I know we've worked with you before transparently, and I enjoyed our experience with you, and would
Thank you.
will continue to do work with you. But hire someone that knows what they're talking about, and that's going to be honest with you. There's nothing worse than a bunch of yes men and women that just say, "Oh yeah, great ideas, great ideas, great ideas." I want people on my team to disagree with me if they have a reason to disagree with me, and tell me why,
Yeah.
because I don't care about being the one that comes up with the right decision or the right direction. I just want to make sure we get there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's like there's nothing worse than having like a COO that's like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to improve this process. I think it's okay. I don't know. Like when you don't have like a decision makers on your team, it's so bad because like that's
Hmm.
why you hire them to delegate some of the things that you do. Like I have a team of 82
Yeah.
people right now and I cannot make all the decisions. I need people who are going to be
Oh,
decision
of
makers,
course.
for me, and they will make mistakes and they will screw up, but at least they would, they
Yeah.
will be trying, so that's also an effort is also a good thing.
Yes, and apparently my dog's barking at someone in the background. I don't know. She every time she gets freaked out, she gets a little mohawk and it stands up on the back of her
Oh
neck.
my God, like
So
a
Yana,
parrot.
tell people. I know it's, yeah, sort of. Yana, tell people where they can find you if they want to get in touch with you in a bookstore, in a Starbucks in Australia. Probably not. Where can people get a hold of you on the internet or the interwebs or wherever?
Sure. Well, I'm always on LinkedIn and Facebook, so I'm basically online. I love hanging out over there, even though they say now that Facebook is for old people. I'm not that old, but I'm still there.
Yeah, no, you're not
Um,
that old.
No, not at all. Instagram, basically like all social media. And always you can like if you have any questions or if you want like any advice on like international marketplaces, whether like want holiday sort of like related advice or Q4 or basically anything else that we've seen that works or doesn't work, you can shoot me an email at jana@ylt-translations.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Yana. We appreciate it. This has been the longer game where we talk about retail and my dog barks at the end of the episode. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming again on here, Jana, and for talking to us about tent bikinis and all that great stuff. I think I will never forget this episode for sure.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
All right. See you guys. Thank you for listening to The Longer Game. We genuinely appreciate your time. And if you want to connect with us, please reach out to thelongergame.com. You can fill out a contact request form there. You can also find us on majority of the social media platforms, except for Twitter. That's the only one that we're not really on. This show is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We're helping brands accelerate growth and become profitable on Amazon. If you'd like to know more, go to thinkcartology.com, fill out a contact form, and we'll get on the phone. That's what it's all about, connecting with you and building a relationship. This show is also brought to you by Arch DevOps. They are the ones that are helping make all the logistics of this podcast happen. We are so thankful for them. If you want to get your podcast up and running and you want to automate as many things as possible, go to archdevops.com. That's ARCHDEVOPS.com and reach out to them. They can be super, super helpful. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day and be blessed.